Buondì studenti e benvenuti ad un nuovo video. Welcome to a new video. Today I want to address one of the most common mistakes that Italian learners make, and that has to do with the word qualche. Qualche is one of the many ways that we can say some in Italian, and it's also one of the most misused ones. So today I'm going to share with you how to use it correctly, the differences with another very common way of saying some, which is alcuni, and you probably heard of it too. And also I'm going to share the most common mistakes that you want to avoid and how you can use one or the other correctly. As always, I'm going to share with you many examples, so this will be super clear and immediately usable for you at the end of the lesson. Also, I prepared a PDF versions for this lesson that you can download for free. Just click on the link in the description below this video. Ok, iniziamo. Let's begin. So let's spell the word out so you can see it. Qualche. Qualche. This means some. Now, the most important thing that you must never forget about qualche, the number one thing is that qualche is only used with singular nouns. That's it. Now, I know this can be confusing because in English, you, for example, can say some people, and people is plural. So in Italian, I want to say qualche persone with people, plural. But that's wrong. Always wrong in Italian because qualche must be used with singular nouns only. The meaning is going to be the same. So even if you use it with singular nouns, the meaning is going to be some people, for example. But you need to use a singular noun with qualche. Always. So the most common mistake I see is this. Qualche persone. But persone is a feminine plural noun. That means people. You want to say that because it's some people. That's wrong. The right way of saying that is qualche persona. Qualche persona. Because qualche always goes with a singular noun. And that's the one thing and the most important thing that you want to never forget. So qualche persona, although it uses persona, which is singular, means some people. It's just that qualche must be used with singular nouns, but the meaning is still the same. Now, since this is the most important point, I want to practice this with other examples. Qualche persona means some people. How do we say sometimes? That in Italian would be qualche volta. Still singular noun, volta. Now, if it's confusing why I'm saying qualche volta and not qualche tempo, this is not the topic for today's lesson, but I have a dedicated video on how to say time in Italian correctly, and that explains why I'm using qualche volta and not qualche tempo to say sometimes. So I'm going to refer you to that other video, dedicated video, that you're going to find in the link in the description below to know how to say time in Italian correctly. Whenever you want to say sometimes, the correct way of saying that in Italian is qualche volta, singular. Let's see some more examples. If you want to say some books, how do you say book in Italian? Libro. So how do we say some books? We say qualche libro. That's some books in Italian. Another example, some places. Place in Italian is posto. So we will say qualche posto. This is the correct way of using qualche in Italian. This is the number one thing you want to never forget. Qualche plus singular noun. Qualche persona, qualche volta, qualche libro, qualche posto. And whatever other thing you want to say, just remember to use the noun in the singular form. Now, let's address a common doubt that many students have. What's the difference between qualche and alcuni? Let me type these two for you. Another very common form of some in Italian is alcuni. Alcuni. Now, here's the difference between qualche and alcuni. They both mean some, but qualche must always be used with singular nouns. Alcuni is plural, so is used with plural nouns. Also, another important difference, qualche never changes. I want you to notice this. We used qualche with a masculine noun, libro, qualche libro. We used qualche with a feminine noun, persona, qualche persona. In both cases, qualche did not change. Qualche always stays the same. So remember, qualche is always used with singular nouns and qualche never changes depending on the word you use it with. Okay, alcuni is different. Alcuni is plural and it does change. If you use it with a masculine plural noun, you use alcuni. But if you need to use it with a plural feminine noun, you need to switch to alcune. So these are the two main differences between qualche and alcuni. Alcuni is plural and needs to change to feminine plural if you are using a feminine plural noun. Okay, now if you are a total beginner and you are not sure about masculine, feminine, singular and plural, I do have some videos regarding this topic and I'm going to leave them in the link in the description as always. Okay, let's see some examples with alcuni and alcune. How do we say some books with alcuni or alcune? Well, first of all, books is libri. We need the plural one with alcuni, and libri is masculine plural, so we will use alcuni. Alcuni libri. Okay, what if you want to say some people? People is persone, plural, we need the plural with alcuni, but persone is feminine plural. So which one will we pick? We will pick alcune, the feminine version. Alcune persone. How do we say sometimes with alcune? Or alcuni? Well, I already gave you a hint. So times is time is volta when you talk about recurrency. So we need the plural, volte, that's plural feminine, so it's alcune volte. Alcune volte. Another example, how do we say some places with alcuni? Places is posti, plural masculine, so alcuni posti. Alcuni posti. And that's the other way of saying some in Italian. So my point here is this. You can either pick qualche or alcuni when you want to say some in general. Just remember that when you use qualche, you will need to use the singular form of the word. So for example, qualche posto and qualche libro. But if you pick alcuni, you need to remember to use the plural form and to match the form of alcuni to the gender of the noun. So it will be alcuni libri for masculine plural, but it will be alcune persone for feminine plural. Now I want to share with you something else. So these were the most important points. How to use qualche correctly, how to use alcuni correctly, and what are the differences. And I hope by now they are clear. But now I want to give you one more tip. And this is usually not highlighted in grammar books and classes. They have the same meaning. They are synonyms, but they are not always used interchangeably. They cannot always use interchangeably. Let me show you what I mean. When you make a statement, so when you say, I need some books, you can use either. You can say, per esempio, okay, ho bisogno di qualche libro. That means I need some books. Ho bisogno di qualche libro. Or you can say, how would you say that with alcuni? Prova, try. Ho bisogno di alcuni libri. So when you're stating something, they are essentially interchangeable as long as you remember how to use each one correctly. But what happens when you ask a question? Well, when you ask a question, we tend to use qualche only. Now, this is a point that confuses students because this is where English and Italian are different. In English, you say, I need some books, but if you ask that, it's, do you need any books? Well, in Italian, we don't differentiate between some and any. That's, by the way, why it's so hard for us native Italian speakers when we speak English to differentiate between some and any. I don't know if you ever noticed that, but that's very hard for us. So, because in our mind, some and many do not exist. We just say some, both in statement and in questions. So, we could ask, for example, do you need any books? That would be, do you need some books? That would be correct in Italian. But when we ask questions, we tend to prefer one of these two. So when we ask questions, we still say some, but we prefer to use qualche for questions. So, for example, if you want to ask, do you need any books? In Italian, remember, that would be, do you need some books? And in theory, you could ask both hai bisogno di qualche libro? Or you could ask hai bisogno di alcuni libri? But in real life, we tend not to use alcuni for questions. So here's my extra tip. When you ask questions, stick with qualche. The most common way to ask, do you need any books or do you need any of anything, is hai bisogno di qualche whatever. So remember, tend to use qualche for questions. It's probably going to be more correct and more natural and more authentic to how we speak in Italy. Okay, I want to share some more example sentences with questions. So let's suppose we want to ask, this is a question I always ask to my students. Do you have any questions? How do you ask that in Italian? Do you have any questions? Okay, first of all, we use qualche. So since we use qualche, we need to use question, not questions. How do we say question in Italian? Domanda. So the correct way to ask, do you have any questions in Italian, is hai qualche domanda? That's the most common way of asking, do you have any questions in Italian? Let's practice this also for plural. So if I want to ask that to you all, then I would use the plural you. So that would be avete qualche domanda? Do you all have any questions? That's how you ask that. But if I want to state, like I want to say, I do have some questions. How do we say that? We can say that two ways. We can say that with qualche and with alcuni, because in statements, qualche and alcuni are interchangeable. But we need to remember what we learned before. So use qualche with a singular noun and use alcuni with a plural noun. So if I want to ask, if I want to say, I have some questions, I can say these two ways. Ho qualche domanda, so qualche plus singular, or ho alcune domande. And they are both correct. So alcune, feminine plural, domande, feminine plural. And they are both correct. Ho qualche domanda, ho alcune domande. Okay, let's do just one more example. What if I want to ask? So we're going to practice the question and the statement. What if I want to ask, do you have any plans for the summer? Plans in Italian is programma. So we use the word programma, singular, programmi, plural. And despite ending in a, programma is masculine. So if you want to say, do you have any programs for the summer? What do we use, qualche or alcuni? Qualche, because it's a question. So, hai qualche programma per l'estate? Hai qualche programma per l'estate? Do you have any plans for summer? I'm using programma, singular. Can I ask this with alcuni? No, because we don't really say hai alcuni programmi per l'estate. That would sound weird. So don't use alcuni for questions. Instead, if I want to say, yes, I already have some plans for summer, I can use either qualche or alcuni. We're going to do both. So I want to say, yes, I already have some plans for summer. Let's do this with qualche first. So think about this for a moment. How would you say, yes, I had some plans for this. Let's do this. I already have some plans for the summer. Sì, ho già, already, qualche programma. Per l'estate. Sì, ho già qualche programma per l'estate. Yes, I already have some plans for summer. And I'm using qualche. So programma is singular. Now let's do the same sentence, the same statement with alcuni. I told you that programma, despite ending in a, is a masculine noun. This is one of those exception words that end in e, but are masculine. Quindi programma, maschile. Plural, the same way you would make any plural noun, programmi, okay? So how do we say, yes, I already have some plans for the summer with alcuni? Sì, ho già, already, alcuni programmi per l'estate. Sì, ho già alcuni programmi per l'estate. Okay, let's recap what we learned. First of all, qualche and alcuni both mean some in Italian. Qualche is always used with singular nouns and stays the same, does not change with the different gender of the word. Alcuni is always used plural, with plural nouns, and must be changed for feminine plural to alcune. So we have one version of qualche, but we have two versions of alcuni. Alcuni, maschile plurale, alcune, femminile plurale. Qualche is used both in statements and questions, but alcuni is mainly and only used in statements, not in questions. So here's my tip, because I always want to give you a tip to simplify things so that you can immediately use them. If you have to pick one, stick with qualche. Qualche never changes, so you don't have to think about gender agreement, works both for statements and questions, and the only thing you need to remember is to always use it with singular nouns. So just remember, qualche persona, never ever qualche persone. That's a mistake. Okay, there you have it, guys. This is the most practical guide that you can find on how to use qualche and alcuni in Italian. If you like this video, don't forget to let me know that you like it by giving it a thumbs up, and also let me know with a comment down below. Also, don't forget to download your free PDF for this lesson that I have prepared for you to easily review and practice all the things that we have learned together today. Just click on the link in the description to download your PDF. È tutto per oggi. It's all for today. Ci vediamo al prossimo video. See you in the next video. Ciao ciao da Valentina.